Hey, thrill seekers.
Hello. Who's on the t-shirt today?
Gustav Mahler, one of my favorite composers.
Oh, okay. Can you hum one of his best songs? I'm not familiar.
Oh, I can't, I wouldn't even dare try to hum Mahler 9 because it just paralyzes me emotionally. The Bob and Kel CleverCast for the week of June, what is it, 25th, 26th, somewhere in there.
26.
It's a Monday. Brought to you by my son's employer, Fort Collins, Colorado. New Belgium, Voodoo Ranger, 9% ABV. And by, hi, this is Al Pacino. You're probably wondering how at 83 I could be a dad. Say hello to my little friend. Tadalafil 20 packs twice the punch of a Tadalafil 10 milligram for the boner that will make her a moaner. And by, hi, this is Donald Trump. You're probably wondering how I can shoot those playground insults out at the people who criticize me. I do that with Donald Trump insult dice. I just shake the dice. I have an adjective dice and a noun dice, and I toss them, and there they are. When Bill Barr calls me a petulant child, it's almost like he's borrowed my dice. My adjective says gutless. My noun dice says pig. Bill Barr is a gutless pig. When Jack Smith indicts me, roll the dice. Adjective dice says deranged. Noun dice says lunatic. Deranged lunatic. Donald Trump insult dice. Get your pack of 7 pair at your grocer's freezer today. Ask for it by name.
Is there a verb dice? Because I'd like to say go yourself.
That would take 3 dice. I would think. I don't know that there's a game that employs 3 dice, but that could happen, I suppose.
Go blank
And
yourself.
by and by hi kids, I'm Waltine Nauta, the body man for Donald Trump. How do I maintain the strength and durability to become a body man? With these. These are called Waltines. They're saltines without the salt. Ask for them by name. And by, hi, I'm Bob Yates. As you know, I'm the go-to guy for anything female mons pubis related, as you know. So welcome to my new store in South Pasadena called Mom's Pubis, just in time for Mother's Day 2024. Get your mom the vaginal rejuvenation or Brazilian wax she needs in 30 minutes or less. This concludes the fake sponsors.
You had a backlog of sponsors there.
And bifocal accidents. I had one just 20 minutes ago. I was looking at the ESPN feed on my phone, and it said busy Blackhawks acquire so-and-so from so-and-so. It's an off-season NHL trade. So help me God. Maybe I just have a one-track mind. I thought it said busty Blackhawks. And I'm thinking that's what it'll look like when there's a woman's a pro hockey league out there. Busty Blackhawks acquire so-and-so.
Well, you're already saying a swear when you go Black Hawks, but that's neither here nor there.
Black Hawks.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. Oh, you paused.
Also, I saw an ad for a personal injury law firm that said, has someone's negligence caused an accident that ruined your life or that of a loved one? And I thought it said negligee. Has someone else's negligee caused an accident?
I've had
That
that. I've had that issue too. I've read negligee before. I think we just have one thing on our minds.
when Djokovic won that, I think it was a semifinal at the French against Alcaraz, and Alcaraz, the much younger, you'd think, fiddle guy, got cramps, and the next day there was a leg cramps, and the next day there was a headline that said Djokovic defeats cramping Alcaraz. And I'm thinking, will that, would that ever pop up in a post-mortem for a woman's match? Quiontek defeats cramping.
Oh,
I hope not. I lived 72 years and I never saw the word. And then in the past week, I've heard it 19,000 times an hour. And and it sent me right to the Robert Palmer videos of the mid-1980s. You were about 12 years old, I'm guessing. You were watching
Oh,
MTV in
six.
order to see Robert Palmer, with the dancing girls with the guitars behind him. He's singing simply so submersible. The tension is irreversible. Those were some great videos. Actually, it was called Simply Irresistible. But when I heard submersible for the first time, I thought, damn, apply a little AI to that, and you've got a Robert Palmer song. You bring it back from the dead.
Exactly. I feel like you're a kinked hose and you've unkinked, and all this funny is coming out of you. It's hilarious.
Well, it's a little like delaying anything tantrically. There's going to be an explosion at some point. You just better duck, is all I can tell you.
I
Run
can
for the
feel
hill.
spew all over me right now.
Doesn't 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 the I don't can you say splooge on the radio? Uh, what is your opinion of the of this concept of the wealthy daredevil? I'm fascinated by it because I grew up with Evil Knievel, who was not conducting any research. He was just trying to see how much money he could make by, shooting a motorcycle over a field of cars. But I'm really fascinated by this subject of wealthy daredevils. Julian Sands is another one, climbing Mount Baldy, and they found his remains 6 months after he went missing. We got people who hike through dangerous canyons in Malibu, who need to be, rescued or who are never seen again. Elon Musk will shoot you into outer space for the right price.
Climbing Mount Baldy. Climbing Mount Baldy. That sounds like a euphemism.
No, in this case, it's not, oddly enough.
Okay.
There's an exception to every rule, and this has no sexual subtext. It's something. It's a. You're unfamiliar in Minnesota with. I think there's one in Red Wing, like a hill or a mountain of some sort.
Okay.
But yeah, he climbed something called Mount Baldy and has not been heard from again. Julian Sands. I'm trying to put together a week-long Julian Sands film festival tribute to him posthumously because it's pretty obvious he didn't make it.
Regarding the submersible, I feel like it's strange because so many people, I see not a lot of somber reflection, but more humorous anecdotes and people writing on their social media page some sort of joke about it. Is it because they're a bunch of millionaires and people are finding that funnier than it is sad? I don't know.
I'll tell you what it reminds me of. Elvis wasn't even told sitting on the turlet at Graceland, and people were making fun of the fat version of Elvis dying in the John.
Yeah.
I mean, it was relentless and still goes on today. May have tapered off a little bit because, his daughter's gone now. And other members of the Presley family have died untimely deaths. But I remember the just ridicule. I'm thinking, this is no way to treat this man who co-created rock and roll in the United States. He died a, terrible death, expanding shadow of his former self. That's no reason to ridicule him. But I did hear that on social media they were really making hay with these rich people's misfortunes. CNN appears to be taking it really bad, taking the news really bad because they're still doing a story per hour. For days, it was nothing but submersible on CNN. I think that may be because the guy who owns CNN is a Republican donor also, super conservative guy. So, and how was your day, or how was your last 2 or 3 weeks? The last time we podcast, during the podcast, Donald Trump was being indicted.
I know, right?
Yeah.
But he's still not in jail, so what difference does it all make?
Oh, damn, I just remembered another fake sponsor, Indictment Champagne. Buy it for the arraignment, save it for the conviction. Mine's in the fridge. And Jack Smith wants to delay the trial until December. Boy, that champagne's going to really be aged come 2024, I guarantee you.
What do you think the chances of having a president who's going to be serving from his prison cell?
Well, he'd have to be elected first. I really doubt that, given what he's been up to since he left office,
Yeah.
that would probably, prevent that from happening.
You have a lot of faith in the human public, in humanity.
Well, here's what vote counts. Here's how they've helped us. It's kind of been sort of an unofficial census. The year 2020 revealed that there are 75 million morons in the United States.
Yes.
Now, how many of those morons will hang in there against all this bad publicity about overthrowing the government and beating up the cops at the Capitol and the fake electors and the keeping of the classified documents in Florida when they belong in Washington? If they can overlook that, then they're certainly free to vote for him, I guess. But he's already confessed to what
Right.
he's being charged with.
Mm-hmm.
So I really don't see any hope for the boy.
What was the thing he said way back when? He could go out in the street and shoot somebody and he'd still get elected. It's just
Well, this is going to be the ultimate test of that, don't you think? I think
Agreed.
this is the sound, this wing flapping sound. It's the sound of chickens coming home to roost. Fine with me.
I hope you're right.
This is how it ends when Fred Trump, a Klansman in New York, is your father, and then he hands you off to Roy Cohn. I mean, that's just the worst. You're not going to turn out normal. You're going to wind up in jail. You're just going to wind up there maybe 50 years too late.
Amen.
I'm really surprised that you guys wanted to do this today, given that your twins go off in about 35 minutes.
My twins. They're Kurt's twins. He can have them.
I'm on the verge of disowning them myself.
Yeah, I was going to say, I got the impression that Kurt was about to renounce them also. Denounce and renounce.
I don't know. I can't figure it out. Your Cincinnati Reds are the hot team right now. Wow.
I was just about to say I had a fun baseball fact for you. In the modern era, let's go from 1900 to the present, 123 years, okay?
Okay.
One team in all that time has won 10 games in a row without getting as many walks or as many hits as the opposition in 10 straight games. One team in 123 years. Guess which one?
The Cincinnati Reds.
The 2023 Cincinnati Redlegs.
Wow. So it won't last. They'll fall back to the there's some bad divisions in baseball. My goodness. Notwithstanding the American North. Oh, isn't that what it's called? American League North, Kurt?
No, Central.
Central? Okay.
Central, yeah.
I don't think any of the directions in any of the leagues mean anything. I don't think East means East, West means West, and never the twain shall meet,
For years, Atlanta was in the Western Division. I always got a kick out of that.
Yeah. Here's another fun fact. And this will make you glad you're not living in Texas. It's actually not a fun fact, but it is a fact. Half of Texas counties. Now, imagine this largest landmass state in the United States, okay? Half of Texas counties do not have an OBGYN. Is that something? Governor Abbott has chased them out. He's criminalized them.
Wow.
The least little sign that you've helped a woman with a problematic pregnancy qualifies as an abortion, you can be sent to jail. And they've flown the coop.
But there's so much more than that. Just checking that they're healthy down there. I mean, goodness, that's not pregnancy. That's just sense. I don't know.
No, anybody who's had a pregnant girlfriend or wife knows what a crapshoot that part of the female system, reproductive system is. They seem to think it's black or white. You're pregnant or you're not. Oh no, it's there are all kinds of shades of gray there that you're completely eliminating when you persecute these people, like they're persecuting LGBTQ. I just don't get why, because I say this knowing I have two sisters there who I'll never see again because I'm not setting foot there. I'm not spending one thin tourist dime in Texas. Same thing with Florida. I've got a middle child who's been there recently. Her mother spends half the year in Florida. My conscience would bother me.
Agree. I couldn't go there just for the 100-degree heat. My goodness. What do they have? What are they at this week? Texas is in the 115 range, and Abbott has been kind enough to deny construction workers hourly water. I think he thinks he's the prison warden in Cool Hand Luke. I think he thinks there's this failure to communicate, and he wants people to spend a night in the box when they've gotten out of line.
Abbott is just, I think he's blaming everybody for the fact that he can't walk anymore.
Hey, Abbott.
Hey, that's a heck of an idea. A duet. Elvis Costello does duets. I think he
Right.
has an album of duets. Greg Abbott, Elvis Costello, Abbott and Costello. I like that idea.
Kind of an ebony and ivory, because I'm guessing they're on opposite sides of the political spectrum, but still, that might be
Yeah,
something.
right. Been having some strange dreams lately.
Mm.
Do you have dreams that you have to wake yourself up
Yeah.
so you can leave the dream, so you can stop the dream and then maybe get back to sleep and start a nice one?
Pinch me, I'm dreaming. Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
What happened?
I
What
dreamed
happened
I
in your
was
dream?
I dreamed well, for some reason 3 or 4 of them have to do with pornography. Okay.
Well, are you sure you were dreaming?
In
Daydreaming.
one of them, I was dining. I was a pretty well-known porn actor, not on the level of Brad Newman, but
Who is?
people could recognize me on the street. I was having dinner with friends, and I bit my tongue. I had to call the set and cancel the shoot for the next day. It was that severe. Was that severely injured. And
Oh,
then in another dream, I was a consumer of porn, if you can imagine that.
I can't.
And for some reason, what I was playing in my home was going out to the neighborhood in loudspeakers. And
What?
I couldn't turn it down. And families gathered in my front yard, turn it down, turn it down. They started throwing rocks at the windows, banging on the front door. I couldn't get it turned down. That's the one that I really had to wake myself up out of because that was horrible.
I think I've had that dream before with the sound where you can't turn something down. The volume just is high and you just keep hitting the button to turn it down and it doesn't work.
Yeah,
So that's something.
still some kinks to be worked out in that. Also, I was on a train. In another dream, I was on a train. I've never taken a train, but I was on a train. I forget where I was going to, and I introduced myself to the gentleman next to me. And he said, "I'm Richard Move." And I said, "Richard Move? That's That name sounds familiar." And he goes, "Yeah, I know. I get it all the time. I am technically, personally, a Dick Move, and I came from a Dick Move senior, and my
Why?
son is
Why do I
my,
fall for these things? Any excuse you have, you just go for
my
it.
son is a Dick Move too.
Mm-hmm.
Dreams are the damnedest things. Freud attempted to interpret dreams. I'm sure you've read Freud's
I've heard of Freud and the cigar.
interpretation of
Yes.
dreams. You're
Mm-hmm.
probably reading it while listening to Mahler 9. I'll bet it'll come back to you. And there was one of his clients' dreams. There were wolves hanging from trees, and that was especially tough nut for Freud to crack. But that's on the level now. That's not made up.
Oh, okay. I thought this was going somewhere. I thought there was going to be a clever pun at the end of this.
No, 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 not at all.
Oh,
Sigmund Freud. Um, Kurt, no dreams from your end? You had no dreams?
Yeah, I
I
had.
dreamed that I saw you destroying a bathtub. How could that be possible? You were
That was fun.
destroying it with a sledgehammer.
That was great. That was lots of pent up frustration was going into to that bathtub.
Bob,
Did I tell you that? Huh?
you had some
What?
bathroom issues too, didn't you? The plumber was involved.
Oh yeah.
You won't go into
Well,
that.
we've had plumbing problems. We've had water pressure problems.
Oh,
I think the washer dryer is the next thing to go.
oh
You
no.
know, I keep reading about this trend toward renting instead of owning, and I'm just going, all right,
All
go
right.
ahead. You don't want the responsibility. You want the landlord to have the responsibility. I hope your landlord cooperates.
Yeah, I know. That's the thing. It's a risky move.
I guess the oldest dream that I deal with every now and then is from 1980. After Ricky Lee Jones' first album came out and during her first tour, the night before I attended it, I dreamed that she called me up on stage to sing a duet of a song called Company from her first album. It was a ballad. So I go to the show and I enjoy the show. And on the way home, I realize, oh my God, that's the one song she didn't do. So the dream is still intact to this day. Isn't that wild?
It is
Now, that has
crazy.
to have happened. I'm not creative enough to make that up.
I'm always amazed. I have dreams where I'm falling and I always wake up before I land. I just don't understand how that happens. It's like you're waiting to land and with a thud or something like that. And no, you just wake up for no reason. I never understand that. I also lost teeth in the dreams. That's a weird one too.
I've also given a lot of thought to something I brought up in the last podcast or two. I think there are some days like the day the plumbing went out where I wish that I had, when I had the chance, and I did in fact have the chance in the few months during that time before we left Malibu, I had the chance to swerve my car in front of Dylan's and I didn't do it. That would have been a fantastic way to make his Wikipedia page
Yeah.
and maybe a lawsuit. Who knows?
There's some money there to be had.
Hopefully he wouldn't have been, injured, but that would have been it for me. That would be, like going out in a blaze of glory. That was the one time I'd seen him in 4 years of living there, and he was, in this big black beast like the presidents get, this enormous freaking battleship.
A boat, yeah.
And he's coming toward me at like 80 miles an hour, and I'm just looking like this because I'd seen him come out of his driveway. So it was him, and I look back on that now, and I think maybe I should have swerved in front of him. Maybe I should have just allowed him to T-bone me, and that would have been something to really tell the grandkids about.
Did you at least scream something at him or say that you've spoken to the man?
No, he's going too fast. He wouldn't have heard me. I have a feeling that he's probably having hearing problems anyway at this point.
True.
It was really cool though in those days to look through his fence when it looked really ratty ass before I don't know what got into him. He remodeled the property, revamped it, modernized it. But there was a day when you could look through the slats in the fence. And apparently this is a northern Minnesota thing. He had like, I'm going to say 4 totally rusted out. Looked like, they'd been in Hiroshima. Rusted out motor vehicles. I don't know whether you're familiar with northern Minnesota, but apparently there's some sort of custom to just let them turn to dust. Because there was an Edsel there, so help me God. There was whatever Plymouth that was. It was one of the first cars of any kind where the back window could be electronically lowered. And I think a Studebaker was back there. And they were all just total losses. There was no, real need to even have them, even donate them.
I don't
They
get
should have
it.
had someone. It was like an environmental hazard.
I don't get it. There's somebody in our neighborhood on the street. He has his boat. He has his boat sitting parallel parked on the street in front of his house. He has a little step ladder. He goes and he sits in his boat every other day, just having a nice beer on the boat. But there's no water around, Bob. So I can't figure it out why this guy is what he's doing. Maybe
They love their boats, don't they? I remember neighborhoods. I don't know what led me there, probably a prostitute or something, but it was a kind of neighborhood where the boat looked to be more expensive than the home.
Yes, exactly. I don't know where you put them. It's insane. But I don't know. If you don't have a boat, you want to get a boat. And if you have a boat, you want to get rid of the boat. I don't know. It's weird.
The other obsession is fish. When I moved there, the spearfishing controversy was going full blast between the white people and the Native Americans. That's just the way it was. It was
right.
Resentment of the pact that allowed them to wade out into the water and jab at the fish. It wasn't sporting at all, and they felt it should be sporting. And so boats and fish, quite the Minnesota obsession. I remember saying on the radio that I hope that come Judgment Day, with all of the saved, if you accept the Christian, concept of that, it's like a Woodstock-looking group of people called up to heaven on Judgment Day. That it would be cool if Jesus said over his loudspeaker, let's see, how does this go? Okay, before I begin, I just want to make sure that all of you get enough fucking fish.
Well, wasn't he a fisher of man, knowing your Sunday school stories? So
he was. He directed his disciples to a part of the lake or river or whatever it was, to a place where the fish they caught nearly caused the boat to be what? Submersible.
Yeah, it all comes full circle.
Submersible. It was Addicted to Love,
Yes.
where he was singing and doing his lounge lizard thing with the tie, and he was just Robert Palmer was so cool. And the women back there, they were all tarted up in the face,
Mhm.
and they had the fake guitars and they were doing the dance moves like that. Those were the days, man.
I wonder what those gals are up to these days.
Do the math. This was 38 years ago.
Oh, come on. They're still looking pretty good, I bet. They're probably not swaying as fast, but they're still swaying.
They're pushing 70, I'm guessing. Robert Palmer died I remember I was in a New York airport. I forget why, and I forget what year. But he died on the same day as another late life dad like Al Pacino, except George Plimpton was only 66 when his twins were born. Robert Palmer and George Plimpton died on the same day.
Wow.
It's so rare that two celebrities will die on the same day, and you're kind of torn as to who who you salute and how you salute them.
Yeah, yeah. Who did you choose that day? Or did you
Well,
just
I
stay in?
listened to Robert Palmer while reading some George Plimpton. That's how I
Oh,
covered both bases.
very nice,
Yeah,
very nice. I'm sure
once I got home anyway.
You probably read a New York Times obituary for both of them. That would have filled the whole show, I bet, back in the day.
Here's how I want these submersible vanity voyages to end. I think it's fine if you want to risk your life, in outer space, beneath the seas, in a canyon, on a mountain. I want you to be rescued. I want you to recover. I want you to live a long and happy life. And I want to see you build into next week by state and feds for the imposition you have made on the rescue resources of the various institutions because of your selfishness. That is how I come down on this.
That's good.
And I'm sorry people died, but maybe this is an object lesson to people who were. Well, look at JFK Jr. They told him, "Don't take that flight." He took it and he died.
Yeah. I mean, all those people who were in the submersible were all millionaires, right? I mean, weren't they billionaires?
I didn't read a lot into the profiles of the people. I just know that they had the means with which to rig their own tube or submarine or whatever it is and go down and look at the. I don't know. Are you that fascinated by the Titanic?
No,
I
not
didn't
at
even
all.
see the movie.
You never saw the movie?
I never saw it. It's one of my nevers. Never saw Titanic.
Oh, I mean, I've only seen it once, but I've seen it. Kurt, you've seen it, right?
I have not.
What? Two out of three people on this podcast.
Tell me, is this true? The rumor that when Leo and Kate Winslet were in the carriage and her hand went like that and slid down the glass.
Yes.
That what she actually meant to say was, "We did it 5 times."
Yes. A sweaty palm. Yes, that's true. And I can't believe you haven't watched it just for the boobies scene. I mean, right there. I mean, to see Kate in all her glory. I mean, I that's a pause moment in my lifetime. My goodness.
Have you ever seen a movie called Jude, Jude?
Jude, no, I did not. I've seen the actor Jude Law, but no Jude.
Some sort of I don't know, Nottingham Forest or Elizabethan thing or something. It's a period piece. And early in her career, and she shows you some frontal nudity.
Oh.
And I swear to God, you want to talk bush. She's an Australian woman, right?
I think so, yes.
But with a European bush, just a big black thing standing 3 or 4 inches above her pubic bone. It was just nuts. Make a note of this. This is not porn. This is a movie called Jude. It's historic fiction with an historic basis. And Kate Winslet shows you this. The only one I've known that is more outstanding was one of the first women I dated as a teenager in my my parents' '63 Ford Galaxy, Marla Johnson. She went to my church. The only real physical flaw, not that I objectify women, was she had very heavy calves for some reason. And these orthopedic-looking shoes she wore emphasized that. And to this day, I wish she hadn't done that. Anyway, just an amazing womanly body and uh, a mature woman's breasts. They were round and they were long. And in the darkness of the back seat, and see, back then we didn't have the disposable income that Gen Z does. We had to park behind forklifts and behind, construction sites and warehouses and whatnot. And so neither of us knew a damn thing about where it went. And I remember the discussion: does it go in here? Does it go in there? Where does it go? It was a hot Texas night. We're both sweaty and naked. And sure enough, you puzzle about that kind of thing in the back seat like a couple of specially able pandas. And eventually, you'll hear a car roll up behind you, and a flashlight will go on in the back seat because it'll be a cop who wants to break you up and send you on your way. And she actually got compliments on her bush from cops who discovered us. Man, that looks like the Black Forest in there. Is that the Black Forest? I've never been to Germany, but that looks, oh, for goodness, can I inspect a little closer? Holy cow, is it raining in the Black Forest? You must be doing a good job, young man. I'd hang on to her. She's a keeper.
You were the anti-Bob Brad Newman, you know?
Oh, I didn't tell you. Do you remember when I used to predict greatness for actresses? I think my most satisfying achievement along those lines was Alyssa Milano of Who's the Boss. I saw one episode of Alyssa Milano and Who's the Boss when she was about 10 years old, and I said, that young lady is going to be a big star.
Yeah, but you've also had some misses too. You loved Amelie, and she didn't really do anything.
That's true. She didn't seem to be as career-driven as you would expect.
Some hits and misses, it happens.
Yeah. Well, anyway, the actress that I would like to predict greatness for, you've never heard of her because her movies don't have titles. They're on another channel. And her name is Danica Mori. D for dog style. Anika, Mori, Mori.
Let me get a pen.
Greatness for this woman, at least from an athleticism standpoint. From an agility drill type standpoint, she is the female Brad Newman. So help me, if I can paint this word cloud type picture for you. She's being taken on the edge of a kitchen counter. Okay. The parties are facing each other. All right. He brings her out over the counter, suspending her body over the kitchen floor. She's hanging on to the kitchen counter with her palms. She's supporting her body like that, while this guy, who is now standing, is drilling her while she's suspended over the floor. Amazing. And I can only come up with this explanation for how she's able to do that. I think, I don't know that there's, any like a league violation, but I think she's wearing stickum, because I don't see how a person could hang on with their palms way behind them, hang on to that counter while their body is suspended several feet away in order to,
Fred
Roger Brownlee.
Fred Biletnikoff, he wore stickum.
Lester
right?
Hayes of the Oakland Raiders was, I think he may have been suspended or banished from the league for just basically covering his body with stickum. It was smeared on his uniform top. If he would miss a pass and it would land on his jaw, the football would just stick there, and he would carry it over the goal line. That's how the stickum was.
Isn't it amazing?
And I think that Danica Mori,
covered with stickum,
either stickum or pine tar. You know how
she was covered with something.
Look at your daughter's or your wife's palms sometimes.
Oh, don't bring my daughters or wives into this, please. Jeez.
Yeah, the same thing with her or anyone who has a special woman in their life. Their palms are smooth and shiny and
porcelain-like,
alabaster. Yeah. So it just that's what we'll call you from now on, the alabaster.
Bastard.
I just don't see how someone with hands that delicate could hang on to the edge of that counter for that long without using some sort of some sort of grippy device that maybe they cut at a certain point, applied the stickum, and then continued the scene. The continuity person would come out and go, "Okay, Danica, you're hanging over that kind of thing," the way they do in Hollywood. I want to be the guy who writes the blurb for the book. If she ever writes the book about her life and career, I want to be the author of the blurb on the back that says, Danica Mori has the most relaxed anus in Hollywood.
Title of the podcast. How many can you name who are the most two popular Danicas ahead of Danica Mori?
The one from Wonder Years.
Yes, very good. Danica McKellar.
Exactly. I don't know the other one.
Well, you're not a race fan, but Kurt, you might know. Danica.
Dated there.
Come on.
From Green Bay.
Come on, guys.
Danica Peterson or something.
Close.
Danica what?
Man's
what?
First name, Patrick.
Danica Patrick. I saw her in a commercial today.
Oh, wow, really? Short. That's crazy.
She was a part of the Aaron Rodgers harem for a while.
Yep.
If you remember that.
Yeah, Danica is a very nice name.
He's gotten around. And do you consider road racing of that nature, like F1 or even stock cars or even NASCAR, do you consider those sports? I've heard those people referred to as athletes. Do you believe they're athletes?
I don't know. I think it's more drama than anything else. I watched that drive whatever that show is on Netflix, the F1 drive, the Formula One drivers, and it's fascinating, but it's really just driving around in a circle a lot.
Boy, I'd love to see them try to do that. In other words, it would have to be a rule that they are drunk, that they are at least 0.08.
Yeah,
and they go out and try to do that. That would be fun. You'd be catching all kinds of tires in the
rain.
Bleachers.
I'm more amazed that they can do this downtown. Like they're going to do one in Vegas. What is it coming up? Or
yeah.
And how do they do? They're going to go down the strip, and I mean, geez,
you know what? You're going to have to contact the Saudi Wealth Fund because they're trying to own evereverything sports-wise in the United States. So they'll probably know when the Vegas race is.
Do you have a number for them?
555.
No,
don't. Back to a sidebar on the Texas and Florida issue, if I may, because you recently said that you were about to, or had, or planned to visit a friend in South Carolina. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. Now, you know about South Carolina's reputation as an original slave state.
Right.
It's the home of Lindsey Graham.
Yes.
It's the home of Dylan Roof, who shot 9 worshipers at a black church.
Oh, yeah, I'm not proud of this.
Okay. But it was on your mind early in the formulation of the travel plans?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was there any thought given to like Zoom or Skype or anything that would keep?
Let's go this rate. He is the friend is not an original South Carolinian. He's Minnesotan. Mm-hmm. So it's like, okay, he moved there, unfortunately, but I'm not going to hold that against him as like, if I don't know. You're right, though. If he was a friend, he probably wouldn't be originally from South Carolina. I don't know, Bob. It's just it's a thing.
Was there any discussion of him visiting you in a blue state?
I'll tell you about it at another time, how it all went down. But it's a necessity that I have to go there.
Really?
Well, it's just the reason, the party reason. It is what it is. I'll talk to you.
Did the party have anything to do with glowing torches? And hoods?
I can't go into that, Bob. You know that.
Okay. Is he there on business? Is he there because a job required him to be there?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can make more money down there than he can. He was originally from Jersey, so it's like, okay, that's not a real step up.
I spent a long weekend there once with I want to say it was with Hale. Oh no. Well, I forget. But took some listeners to Kiowa Island, I think it is, South Carolina, for a golf thing. Okay. It's a beautiful state.
Yeah.
You know, the willows and just a kind of lazy atmosphere. And
stay away from the public and you'll be okay, right? So that's my goal, So I was going to ask you, we were talking about lakes earlier. Have you been to like the Pacific? Do you go into the Pacific often? Do you like, have you been to Catalina? Have you done anything like that?
It's not been warm enough. You guys are the ones with the summers. We don't, our summer hasn't started yet.
Really?
Technically, the first week of summer temperatures are this week. It's a pretty
Oh,
day out there today. It's a pool day if a person wants to make it that. The ocean, I think, is still too cold to jump into, but I do have annual Yates family polar plunge responsibilities. At some point, I will have to do that.
that's cool.
And why do you ask?
Oh, I'm just curious. I was just like, if you do pool, do you go to the pool? I'm just thinking, just it's hot
Yeah,
all over the country right now. So I was just
I
thinking, you pool.
I've never had a bad day at the beach.
Okay.
Never, especially walking the beach, because the sponginess of it, boy, you really feel it after it's over. You sleep well that night. There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with a walk along the beach or a walk along the seawall. I had some brushes with greatness along the seawall. Get ready for this.
Okay.
Brace yourself. Brad Garrett of
Brad
Everybody
Gar-
Loves Raymond.
and the latest Jimmy John's commercials. Those crack me up
Brad,
every time.
I saw Brad Garrett on the seawall. I saw Beck. I'm
No,
a
you did.
loser, baby, so why don't you kill me, Beck? I saw him at
Well,
Zuma Beach. Yeah. But there's so many, you know what, even in California, supposedly the physically fit state,
yeah,
the
yeah,
vanity,
yeah.
six-pack type state, there's so many disgustingly, morbidly obese people here. You wouldn't believe it. Their legs are the size of tree trunks. And I'm thinking, I'm supposed to watch my carbs. My doctor gives me shit about, well, to get your type 2 diabetes under control. I just want to say, come with me to the beach and let's look at these young Mexicans who just haven't quite gotten the hang of the whole flour, cheese, bean thing, because it's taken their bodies over, and I'm sitting here feeling I'm supposed to be feeling guilty over, you know, a burger or something or a fish
Yeah.
sandwich.
Yeah, but Bob, you've been to the Minnesota State Fair. You know what the Great Unwashed looks like.
Oh, don't I? Yeah, I'll never forget that. I'd never seen it before. I haven't seen it since. Minnesota State Fair was the first place I ever saw a woman spit into a wastebasket. She was wearing a wife beater undershirt right out of the honeymooners
Ugh.
and stopped at a trash can to spit into it. And I'm thinking, yeah, now I know. I'm at the state fair.
I don't remember Audrey Meadows wearing a wife beater. Oh, wait. Okay.
It won't be long now. You will be having the state fair.
Are you coming back for that? Maybe we should do a podcast from
Oh,
there. Wouldn't that be
I'm
fun?
nostalgic. I'm as nostalgic and sentimental as the next guy, but that's where I have to draw the line.
Just like the old days, we could set up a booth. We could probably find a little park bench. We don't even need a
Look,
booth these days.
looking down Commonwealth Avenue
Yeah.
at 7
Yeah.
a.m. and watching the people buying foot-long hot dogs.
Yeah. Just do a commentary about the humanity. Oh, it would be
I
fascinating.
also remember emceeing the unofficial go-kart races of the morbidly obese people on the scooters. They would come down the main drag there, and we would give them names
Yes.
and race announced like I was Paul Allen or something.
And they would look at you too, because they knew you were doing something. They say, "What the hell are you looking at?" That was tremendous,
Yeah.
tremendous radio back in the day.
With KSTP's mobile unit, you could look out the windshield while you broadcast, and there was always a dwarf who had just been to the corn roast. And
Oh,
I'm telling you, it was right out of David Lynch. Like a 3 foot tall adult grown up dwarf, shirtless, with corn roast juice flowing down his chest, and watching the broadcast.
oh no, I don't believe it.
I never told you that.
I don't think
And
so.
people would bring posters for my show up to me so I could autograph them. And if it was an attractive woman, I would autograph it. Hey, let's take a shower. And I was handing out cigarettes to the small children. It
Oh
was
yeah,
it
and the
was just,
dwarfs. Hmm.
debauchery. And the way the carnies would look at the small children, it was not, you know, I don't know where these people congregate 51 other weeks out of the year, but
Well,
I think there should be one day at the Minnesota State
this,
Fair where it costs about $50 to get in, so you can cut out the riffraff.
oh, it is about $50 these days. But But it's their Mecca, man. It's their World Series, their Super Bowl, their Disneyland. This is their day of the year where they go and they live it up. This is their time. The people who don't get out much.
Tell you something I'm planning. I'm planning to write the history, because I haven't seen one yet. If I'd seen it, it'd be a different story. The history of boomer generation male self-pleasure for the past 60 years. Because in the 60s, my generation, I was, let's say, 11 or 12, the ideal,
my generation.
the person to conjure up here, in the absence during that era of any kind of visual stimuli, the go-to person of that era was Raquel Welch.
Oh, yeah.
And as a matter of fact, we would discuss it on Sunday morning among the other 12-year-olds. When the Sunday school teacher would leave the room, you'll have to pardon the lower voices. We didn't talk with voices this low, but I would turn to the kid next to me and I would say, "So, how'd it go last night with Raquel?" And he would say, "Well, you do realize you're in church, right?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm just making conversation. Hurry before Mr. Bookout comes back." Floyd Bookout was our Sunday school teacher. And so there's this like 10-second pause, silence, and he goes, "Oh, it went okay. She wore that caveman outfit, that furry low-cut thing from the caveman movie, and it went okay." So here's why we need a documented history of boomer generation male self-pleasure. 60 years fast forward, Raquel Welch is dead.
Oh,
And
yes.
so who do we call on now for our theater of the mind?
Because that's the thing. You can't just remember her because the boomer mind is going. So they have to what are they going to do? You have to have
Yeah, but
video.
you know what? I'm amazed how even at this advanced age I can retain some of the images from that era. Usually I depend on the good old-fashioned library of lust.
Library of lust.
I have them alphabetized
Oh,
from
my.
A to Z.
Okay.
Yeah.
An encyclopedia.
If that helps you.
Danica.
Right. Danica Mori. I predict greatness for her.
Okay.
Anyway, I just think that's a
I guess
a fit subject that is relatable.
I mean,
An
that's the
entire
thing.
generation of men who are now,
Well,
popping these bad boys, they can remember that era fondly.
I mean, what does it?
Fondly.
I guess that's the question is okay, so Raquel is gone, but not forgotten. There's videos out there. I'm sure there's tons of her stuff, so to speak. But would you rather watch Danica Mori? That's the question.
When you live with someone, a lot of this activity has to be somewhat clandestine and surreptitious. Although I will say this, if I could toot my own horn here, something from real life and not from decades ago. I was lying, this is the middle of the night, I'm lying on my right side, which you would think is an impediment because I'm right-handed, okay? And my beloved was on her right side, right behind me.
Oh,
and in my stupor, I brought the left hand behind me and landed on pay dirt, just like that. Just like instinct, man. And I remember sitting up in bed and shouting, "I've still got it."
I thought you were inventing a new move there. I mean, my goodness, I've never known the man to be spooned before, but it sounded like you were set up for a nice where she spoons you,
I was being spooned. That's exactly right.
Very nice.
Yeah. Spooning fever, catch it.
Into the boudoir with Bob Yates. Nice. We should change the title of the podcast. After Hours. There's a man who's. Oh. Are you taking a time out?
Why don't we end with a brief discussion of the historic indictment before we go?
All right.
So, to give a faux patina of respectability to the discussion.
Oh, I got
Talk about the precedent of a president or a former president perhaps going to prison. Here's what I think is happening with Jack Smith allowing this Trumper judge to preside over this thing. And we've heard from this Trumper judge, and she was humiliated by the appellate court with one of her early rulings about the documents. I think Jack Smith is saying to Trump, we're going to give you a home game for the last game of your life. We're going to fill the stands with your supporters. We're going to use the umpire that you hired, but there'll be our rules. And by the seventh inning stretch, you're going to wish you'd never been born. That's what I think. I think Jack Smith is trying to make it sporting. That's my theory.
Well, let's hope so.
Because he seems like a a fair guy. Can you imagine what he's heard on those tapes? Can you imagine what he's read in those transcripts that we have had no access to? I'll bet it's like a penthouse forum letter for corruption. Speaking of which, speaking of penthouse,
you're going back to where we were coming from.
I know. So much for that patina of respectability. I'm in the greatest DVD headquarters in the nation, I have to believe, in Santa Monica, called Cinephile, C-I-N-E, File. And I thought, I'll just go up to the counter and see if they have a copy of Caligula. I never got around to seeing Caligula, the Bob Guccione movie.
Sure.
They had a copy for me. It even contained the uncut version, especially off-putting.
Helen Mirren is in that, right? Helen Mirren is in that, right?
And Malcolm McDowell and Sir John frickin' Gielgud.
Oh my!
A lot of people made a big mistake with that.
And they were all naked in that too, right?
No, Sir John Gielgud was not naked. No.
Dang.
But I could only stand about 10 minutes. It was so horrible. It was so cheesy. The outfits were so skeevy. It was just god awful. It gave sex a bad name. I had to, I had to revolt, and I just hit eject, and that was that.
So even just bad sex just does not do it for you. You just it's got to be.
Also, with that same purchase, actually that same rental, I rented something else that I hadn't seen in the 70s. I don't know what I could have been doing that I wasn't seeing these movies, but it was the aforementioned Raquel Welch, who was delightful, in a movie called Myra Breckinridge. From a Gore Vidal novel. Rex Reed was in it. Number of other people you would recognize just coming up or just being phased out. Farrah Fawcett was in this movie. She was delightful also. The beautiful smile. She was just, making her way in Hollywood. She wound up in Myra Breckinridge. So I would actually recommend Myra Breckinridge from a bad movie history type standpoint, but I cannot, under any circumstances, under any, criteria, recommend Caligula. That is just, I can't believe that that's allowed even in a First Amendment society.
Are there any good sex scenes in Myra Breckinridge?
No, it's a comedy. It's totally spoofy. John Huston is in it. John Huston plays a cowboy. I mean, it's like frickin' Zoo. And it's made from this book that was a bestseller by Gore Vidal called Myra Breckinridge. So it was an adaptation. Do you remember the fake commercial I did at KSTP? What goes on inside Gore Vidal's Lincoln?
I don't remember that one.
And Doug Westerman and I were male lovers in the backseat of Gore Vidal's Lincoln. Gore Vidal had a book about Lincoln, and it was called Gore Vidal's Lincoln. So I turned it into a Lincoln Continental.
Oh, okay.
And I've explained a fake spot to you now from like 45 years ago. So I hope you appreciate that.
I do.
Well, as we know, it ain't over till Kurt starts to squirm. So I believe the squirming is perfectly corresponding to the who throws the ceremonial first pitches at Twins games these days?
Boy, that's a good question.
Is there a local celebrity or entertainer or somebody who goes out and throws the ceremonial first pitch like Wembayana or whatever his name?
Well, yeah, I saw he did one down south, didn't he?
He thought that you had to grab the baseball with your entire hand. It was none of this. So no wonder he couldn't throw it over the plate. I give him, I cut him some slack because he's French.
Right.
And he doesn't know anything about baseball, right? He stood a better chance of throwing a basketball over home plate on the bounce than the baseball. Anyway.
Do you want to predict greatness for him? Do you think he's going to be the next Tim
Oh, for
Duncan?
goodness sake. I can't imagine how much money that man will make. Have you seen footage of him, 7'5", bringing the ball down like a point guard, hitting three-pointers?
I think it's very interesting. I hope the best for him, but I see guys like that Holmgren for
Yep.
and Oklahoma City,
Like
and he's skin and bones, and I just
Yeah.
think they're gonna break him. I mean, some
Yeah,
big,
like a
big,
praying mantis.
yeah,
I would keep him. I'd make him a forward. I wouldn't put him down low with the big bodies.
yeah.
So
I guess that's all you
that's
can do.
just my
I'm just
two cents.
Googling here first or famous first pitches at Twins games. Suni Lee, does that name ring a bell?
No,
U.S.
nor
Olympic.
does Naz Reid. I never heard of Naz Reid until today,
Oh,
until I find out that he's being paid more than $1 million a month to be someone I've never heard of for the Minnesota Timberwolves. What's going on there?
well, you'll have to watch him, because if you watch him play, he's kind of fun to watch. The thing is, you look at him and he looks like a 38-year-old grizzled veteran, kind of big, just ornery guy. He's 24. I mean, it's just amazing to me. Anyway,
Next time we meet, I want to talk about a Steely Dan rabbit hole I went down recently.
Oh.
I forget why, but I was listening to Katie Lyde, and I thought, wow, I really like the drums on this. Katie Lyde is my favorite Steely Dan album. And a book has just come out about Steely Dan. Anyway, it was Jeff Porcaro who 3 years later, at the age of 21 or something, co-founded Toto.
Oh, yeah.
And then at the age of 38, died, collapsed in his front yard when this weed killer he was spraying blew back in his face.
Oh,
They had to take him to a hospital, and he died at the age of 38. Isn't that nuts?
That's worse than a submersible.
So we should, well, actually, it's probably not, because the thing imploded, and
Yeah, that's true too. Have you ever watched
as Robert Palmer's lyrics stated, they went down, there's no other way to go.
Have you watched the TV show The Bear?
I refuse to have my anxiety level raised to that.
It was a tough one last night.
Yeah.
Brought in Jamie Lee Curtis and Bob Odenkirk, and it was basically their Christmas. They reverted 5 years and talked about this character's family Christmas, and it was like claustrophobic. It was intense. I'm like, I mean, I recommend it because it was so well acted, but man, it's like a horror movie.
You'll love this. Speaking of Odenkirk, I finally went back on one of my nevers, and I'm about 8 episodes into Better Call Saul. I'm enjoying it immensely. And the person I'm really impressed with, acting wise, is Michael McKean.
Oh,
who's such a genuine neurotic. I didn't know his repertoire, that he stretched like that. Also, I think that Jonathan Banks is a separated at birth with this Russian rebel guy who leads the Wagner troops around.
yeah.
I think they're the same person.
Okay. Yeah, but I know you're gonna love Rhea Seehorn. She's like,
she's
your
cool.
type of gal.
I like her. Yeah. Well, any gal is my type of gal. This is my son's company, Fort Collins, Colorado, New Belgium. Get to the grocery store or your CVS or wherever Minnesota is allowing you to buy alcohol. This is called Voodoo Ranger Imperial IPA, ABV of 9. Until next time, so long for now. Hope you enjoyed the podcast.